Hey Soul Tribes, this is Solstice here. Forgiveness can add years to your life. How? Because forgiveness makes you feel lighthearted and full of energy, like you were when you were a kid. That is until the wounds of your childhood started to pile up and wreak havoc in your adult world. That's where forgiveness comes in. I'm here today with Justin Brown, and he's going to share with us his story of how he healed his inner childhood wounds through forgiveness and began to love himself, which helped him to get back into his playful, magical child. So thanks for being with us here today, Justin, and taking the time to really share your story. Um, so let's first hear your story of first how your childhood and then more of some of your early adulthood.
Well, thanks for having me, Solstice. I appreciate it. And as you know, it's my first time, so bear with me, but we'll have a great time. This will be great. And appreciate you letting me share the message of forgiveness and hope and love. So, as far as my story goes, is I was pretty energetic, fun, loving, adventurous little kid. You know, we got into lots of trouble and you know, just the minor things, but I was just full of love and just a great little kid. And I had a situation where a family member sexually abused me, and probably at about 10 years old, right in that time frame, and it really changed my spirit, changed my light that I once had, and I turned into more of an angry, you know, mean kid, to where I started, you know, fighting kids and being mean and bullying and being bullied, and just really changed my whole path in life. You know, that abuse, the catalyst that just changed me in the wrong direction, and it became almost like this festering wound that was inside of me that slowly over time just grew and just consumed, you know, my spirit, to where I didn't have one anymore. I just felt numb. You know, I explain it to a lot of people that I was dead on the inside, waiting to die on the outside. You know, I just really had um, no reason or want to live because of the suffering and the misery that I was experiencing. You know, and I learned a lot of it was psychological, that I was imposing on myself. You know, through the traumas and years of cycles through it, but definitely the abuse is something that changed my entire life. And as a result of that, I took those traumas and the into my relationships, you know, and into other parts of my life, and I allowed that to continue on, and take that self hatred and self loathing into those situations too, and project them onto other people. And it was definitely a misery and a suffering cycle that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And that's one of the reasons why I want to help spread the message. And you know, if people can heal from this, it'll heal me as well. You know, just knowing that somebody was inspired or touched or was able to reach out and do some of that inner child work and some of that forgiveness work. And anyway, I don't know how much deeper you want me to get into.
Yeah, well, we did talk about that because of this abuse, then you moved into addiction, right? And so that's where you started to get in treatment for because that part of you that wanted to not live anymore really moved into that area, right? So
Absolutely, yeah, it caused the uh, unforgiving myself and thinking there was something wrong with myself caused me to medicate myself, and that could have been through anger, could have been through drugs, through alcohol, you know, through hurting others. You know, it's just an endless cycle that you use things to try to make yourself feel better, and as a result, you're just hurting yourself over and over. But the endless cycle and the chains that bind you to that thought process and that perception are horrible. And it took, you know, years and years and years to to realize that I was even in a cycle, you know, because that's all I knew. And that's what I was addicted to, was I was addicted to the misery, and I was addicted to feeling the same way or not feeling anyway. And so the thought that a feeling was even scary, you know.
Mm,
Um, so it's easier not to feel sometimes than to feel.
right.
Yeah. And anyway,
And I
the
think that that numbness is a part of how we lose our magical childhood. Part of that not feeling, because when we were talking about how feelings when you were younger and now that where you're at now is that you can feel things more authentically, more vulnerable, whereas before you just numbed out, and so therefore that's how you get into that serious adult world where you're not really feeling and living life fully, right?
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
The defense mechanisms that you pick up, or the labels that you put on yourself as a result of these things, are what stops you from being that inner child, you know, and actually embracing the authenticity that you really are, you know. And it's a way of shielding yourself from the outside world, and protecting yourself from not being vulnerable again like you were as a child when you got hurt, you know. And so it's a absolutely a defense mechanism.
So talk about some of that process of how you, what I call it, kind of deprogramming yourself so that you became that authentic self. So how did you kind of, what was some of the processes that you went through, and or therapies that you did to be able to kind of get those feelings back?
Well, there was through therapy and through many counseling. I worked through, did some inner child work. I did a lot of internal work, but where it really started was seeing myself for where I was at, and then working backwards like into my inner, you know, child work, and rebirthing, and work in that direction. But yeah, specifically, I was in a group situation to where I had to take a glass framed picture frame, and I had the group, which were my peers. They had to come write on the window with magic marker how they saw me, and in one or two words, the message that they delivered to me was just, it just cut deep, because this facade, or this avatar that I've created, or thought that was me, it was just being damaged. At least I thought it was being damaged. And so it took me seeing myself through their eyes, and then also thinking, this Justin, this great big tough guy that I've created, you know, that's me, that's the real me, you know. And it wasn't until I was able to sit in meditation and really look within to realize that I wasn't this angry, mean, selfish, unloving, hatred, cocky, arrogant person, you know, that I was actually pure love, and I was actually sensitive and caring and loving and selfless. And that's the part of me, the vulnerable side of me, that I didn't want to show to people because I was afraid to get hurt again.
Mm.
But
Wow, that takes so much courage. So how did you let it go? Like, how were you able to let go of old Justin, the Justin that wasn't serving you? Was that
um, yeah, that was a tough, long process, because you hold on to those beliefs, you know, that the important things in life really aren't important. You know, the big houses and the fancy cars, and all the material things that you really think are your identity, you know, are not the important thing. They're not you. They don't determine the type of person you are is determined by your heart. And going within, it was finally I was able to come to terms with and shed some of those beliefs. But it wasn't until through meditation was I able to do that. And no matter how many self-help books, no matter how many, you know, positive mental attitude courses and seminars and things I went to, as till I internally went within, is when I was able to do some of the work that was helping me to transcend and transform myself. If that answers your question.
That sounds great. So how did you get, I know a lot of people when they think about trying, they want to be free of their childhood traumas and their abuse, but they're afraid to step into the therapy. And I think as they feel like they're going to have to relive it all over again. What would you say to that? Like, what would you tell somebody how did you get the courage, maybe is the question, to finally face what you were initially afraid to face? Like, how did you finally get there?
I think finally the pain outweighed the peace, or the potential peace. And so I was at a point where I was just so sick and tired of the direction in life, that the way it was going, that I had to try something different and do something different. You know, it took what it took, and it took a lot. And I went through horrible suffering in life, and caused myself a whole myriad of problems, you know, that wrapped around substance abuse and, you know, failed relationships, failed marriage, and, you know, had to experience the pain and the suffering before I was even willing to search for the peace and the love, you know. And I'm grateful for the suffering, because without it, I wouldn't know the true feelings of joy and love that I feel now. And but as far as stepping into that pain, it's very, very tough. It's some of the toughest things that I ever had to do in my life, was to you know, pick up the phone and call my abuser, and ask for a meeting, ask to confront him, to be able to speak with him, to help the healing process, you know, and to set the appointment and have him show me, and the anticipation and the waiting. And it was tremendously hard, you know, but it was necessary to go through that, to be able to heal, you know. And that's just one of the steps to get through it for me. You know, it might not be for everybody. Everybody might not have to do those kind of things, or might not be able to do those kind of things. But a shift.
So before you even called your abuser, you wrote a lot of letters to them. What was some of the process before you even got to that point, to move through this forgiveness process for you?
Yeah, I did some empty chair work, to where there would be an empty chair sitting across from me, and I would talk to him and ask questions, or, you know, say what I needed to say, or write letters to him. And one of the first letters I wrote, I remember, was an anger letter, and it was just really just mean and hateful and angry. It was just about getting all that energy and emotions out onto paper, and the feelings out there that I had about him, you know. And then there was a period where I took the letter and I had to read it, and then I had to take a sledgehammer and I had to hit this van. There was a minivan, and I just literally just beat it up, you know. And the rage and the anger was so built within me that I ended up throwing the hammer down, and I just started punching the van, and I had blood all over myself, and I would just, till I couldn't raise my arms anymore. And then I had to go, and my counselor said, "You're not done." And she brought me in, and there was a punching bag, and she made me punch the punching bag until I couldn't anymore. And then she made me go out to the van and hit it some more. And it was pretty amazing, you know, to be able to express those things and get it all out. She kept saying, "Are you done? Do you need to do it again? Do you need more?" And I just physically couldn't do it, and nor did I spiritually want to. It was releasing, and I'd already been praying for him for probably a couple months, and you know, and that was tough, you know. And how can you pray? I thought, how could I pray for somebody that did that to me, you know? But it was merely just saying, you know, "God, please, you know, give him the blessings and the healing that he needs and deserves." And I could do that. Just say, you know what he needs. I don't, but, you know, give him that. And through that, it was a shift in perception. You know, through a period of time, I perceived him differently, you know. And so when I was hitting the van, it just released a lot of that anger, you know, and it was no longer built up, you know, and very healing part of it.
So that's called somatic therapy, right? Where you actually physically release emotions, right?
I'm not
Pretty
sure. I'm
sure.
not sure. It's pretty awesome. I'll call it that.
Because I do know sometimes we can just go through that emotion, and if it's not done right, then we're just stirring up a lot of emotion for no reason, you know, like, so there must have been something that your therapist was doing to help it move along so it wasn't just sitting in your body. Because really what was happening is it sounds like it was just physically, this anger was in your body, physically there, and it needed a place to go, to come out, to release the tension. And there was a safe place that's allowed to be there. And I think partly having a therapist witness it, I think helps to move it through. Because I do know that sometimes if we just, like, you know, throw a big tantrum, that doesn't necessarily, because I get what you're doing there, because you're validating the anger, and not, you're not saying, well, I'm not angry about it, I'm just going to move to love. Because we're going to talk about down a little bit here about how you moved into a state of love. But initially it sounded like part of your process was, first I have to acknowledge that I'm really freaking angry about this, this is not okay with me, like, and allow that to come through. Because I think we can't just jump to the frequency of love, to that Christ consciousness love, until we've had some of the other stuff come through that needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah, up until that point too, I had not really expressed myself as far as showing emotions. You know, I wouldn't cry in front of people.
Oh,
You know,
right.
I wouldn't. I wasn't a hugger, so I wouldn't hug my male friends, or you know, even in you know, group therapy or AA, those kind of things where you hold hands. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the person next to you, I wouldn't even hold the person's hand next to me if it was a guy. You know, because I had to work through, you know, so much of that in the abuse. But more than anything, I hadn't got to the point where I could show emotions and be okay with the emotions, you know. And so whatever emotion I was feeling, whether it be hurt or pain, I would flip it to anger, you know, and that's when I would hurt others to perpetuate that cycle and to stay in those feelings, because that's all I knew was those feelings that brought me validity and brought me, you know, those chemical reactions that I was addicted to, that you know, had numbed my spirit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, mm-hmm.
Wow, this is an intense story. This is so good to hear, though, I think, because, and I think what I was still asking was, so, so there were times when you really did have to go through it. But I guess, so what I was telling you about that, I, you know, I'd been raped when I was 19, and I think sometimes we think that we're going to have to go through and re-experience it, the abuse and the, what happened to us all over again. The trauma is going to have to be completely relived. And I find that in therapy, like, it's almost like you briefly visit it, but you're not there for like long periods of time, because the therapist moves you through it. Like, it helps to now release it out of you, so that you're not repeating that story over and over again in your daily life. Like, or
Yeah,
the fear comes up in a situation in which there is actually nothing to be afraid of now, because that situation isn't happening again, but it seems like it's happening because that's what you're being triggered into. um, so would you say that you feel like you had to relive it all over again and it was just hell, or what would you say what your experience was?
I would say that I didn't have to necessarily relive it over and over or over to go through it in detail or anything like that. Uh, it was more about the, like you were saying, it was, I was in a safe place. It was the psychological suffering that I was causing upon myself, and the fear that I was giving to the situation. I was giving him power over me, and he was energetically connected to me and
Mm,
still had power over me, even though, you know, hadn't seen him for years and years and years, because I was allowing that, uh, you know,
mm,
for him to have that power over me. I was giving him that power. So in one of the situations where I had to call him, it was a matter of just flipping that switch and just picking up the phone without thinking and doing it, going through the motions before I created and thought the
uh,
fear was, you know, allowed it to paralyze me. Before I
right.
allowed any of that, I just went and did it, you know. So, so
Mm.
some of that was liberating, to realize that a lot of it was, you know, what I was, the psychological suffering I was causing upon myself.
So talk about how you disconnected. You said you had like this cord between you, this, because of the pain keeps cycling through, you had a cord between you and him. And what did you do to release that? What was the process for that?
That came later, and that came through the Course of Miracles. That came through my perception of mind shift and being able to forgive myself. And when I truly forgave myself, then it really didn't matter. It was
Mm.
it was more insignificant to me that he was he didn't truly harm me. That I allowed him to have that psychological power over me, and I had to think of it more so that me being an eternal being of love that can't be harmed, that it was merely, attack on my body, not on my spirit, not on my soul. So in that case, I could look at him with forgiveness and look at him from a point of insanity, that he truly must be an insane person and sick and hurting and probably abused and probably gone through just horrible, terrific things in his life, to where if I judge him, I'm also judging myself, and I can't do that. I've got to look at him with non-judgment and look at him with love, and look at him as a hurting child, because literally, even though we're adults in this world, we're still just children in the whole evolution of things. And if God isn't going to judge us based on, why should I, So at that instant, that's when the healing process started, when I was able to truly look at him with no judgment and look at myself with no judgment. When I forgave myself, that's when the magic happened.
So what did you have to forgive yourself of? What was a part of you that you needed to forgive for you?
For feeling all the feelings that I had created in my mind of self-doubt or self-worth, or less than, or any unworthiness that I had created, or any labels that I had created on myself that was unloving. I had to let all those go and realize those aren't me. Those are projections that other people have put upon myself, or that I've accepted as myself. And it wasn't necessarily anything horrible that I'd done to others, other than being selfish. Selfishness is literally the root of pretty much all sins, if we look at it. And being unloving is something that I had been, and I had caused some of that cycle of violence back. And I've never abused anybody, but I surely hurt people, in many other ways. And so I had to be willing to look at those things with non-judgment as well, and let them go, let them heal, and all those little secrets that you tucked away along the years, you really had to let them come to life, and again, see them with non-judgment, and love those parts of you, that shadow part of you, the darkness. You had to be able to accept that there is parts of that with you, but there's a balance, and the anger is part of the love, and even though I'm angry, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, and so anyway, taking off those labels, I'm an angry person, and not seeing it like as that, was just very healing.
Yeah, so that's basically like how you get back to that magical inner child, feeling like a kid again, is because when you're a kid, you get angry, but it doesn't, like, because there's no judgment on it as we put on it now. It's like you get angry for a little bit, and then you just kind of move on to doing, you have your little tantrum, and then you're just like off playing again, and or whatever, because that you're feeling the emotions authentically at the moment that they're happening, without a big pileup of judgment around it. And that's what it means to get back to the feeling like a kid again. I do want you to tell me more about how you did that process. Was that through meditation that you were able to let go of that forgiveness for yourself, like let go of some of those beliefs, the doubt, the self, not having the self-worth? And was that mostly through meditation that you were able to do that, or was that through some visualization therapy, or what did you do to kind of do that?
Yeah, mainly through meditation and going on these journeys that I like to go on, to where I go out into the woods or the wilderness and experience nature, and immerse myself into the healing of the forest bathing, or whatever you want to call it. It's just magical. But it all happened. It all happened in my mind with the perception change first. I had to start seeing things differently and feeling things differently. And it was a work in progress to be able to look at my brother or my neighbor or whoever it may be, and see myself in them, you know, and see them with non-judgment is so difficult, you know. And so it took a long process and in practice to be able to do that, and still constantly to do that. But that's where the change started happening, was when I looked within and sat with myself in silence. When you jump into the silence is when you find yourself. Swimming in that silence is just, it's so hard to explain what happens. You know, it's almost like this operating system of your computer, this little safe mode that you can only access through meditation. When you're in that meditation, you know, there's powers to be that connect and really guide and direct your heart, and also reprogram and help your mind. You know, I would a lot of times, you know, go through in meditation to where I would see a certain situation, or see like slides of my life coming through, and to be able to look at those slides and not feel the judgment, and to see them maybe as a correction change in the meditation, and it would heal me. And it was almost like that, just trauma disappeared, because I relived it the way that I should have lived it, and now it just collapsed and it's gone. So the meditation is definitely vital. Course in Miracles.
So describe your style of meditation, because there's so many different kinds of meditation, because it obviously gets you into your heart space, which is a really, what I have found is one of the best ways to really heal trauma is the heart. And I do actually have some meditations on my channel that I'll put up a link up here on other heart opening meditations, but I'd like to hear your style, your specific style of meditation that you found that works.
Okay, I use tons and tons of different things. When I started out, because I have ADHD, and so for me to sit still for like 2 seconds is just difficult, you know. Let alone meditate, like, you know. So yeah, so in the beginning, I had to distract myself, and so I used monaural beats and binaural beats, and different frequencies. And when I would use those frequencies, I was able to distract my brain from thinking, you know, and I was able to get into a place of feeling. For me, it's always been about feeling. You know, I can't be in my mind. I have to be in some type of a state or emotional state, you know. And so getting into the state of gratitude for me is a real easy way to get into meditation. And so for me, to be able to sit in gratitude and be able to feel that feeling in my heart center. And once I feel that feeling in my heart center, be able to radiate it out and expand it out and spread it out. And that's just my favorite form. Yeah, there's many other ways that I do it, you know, but that's my favorite. And in nature, right next to a river, right next to a waterfall.
Yeah, there's something incredibly healing about Mama Earth. She just holds you in her heart, you know. She's a heart being, and when you're in that nature, I mean, this is so fantastic. I do want to hear about your also use the Wim Hof method, and that's another way of being in nature. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So since I've been a little kid, I've been doing cold plunges like crazy. I've been going to this hot spring since I was a little kid. And so we would do hot to cold, we do hot to snow, you know, just back and forth. So I was raised just doing this, and I just loved it. And, but I never thought of it as a healing modality, you know. And when I found this method, I tried one of the breathing sessions, and I just was so profound. It impacted me so greatly, just in this little 30 time breath hold. And I didn't really understand what was happening, but I felt something, and I was able to get into a headspace that I wasn't able to get into before. And so it opened up a new form of meditation for me, as well as about that time, you know, with COVID and everything, it was very important to raise our immunity, you know. And so the Wim Hof method is one of the, you know, few ways to be able to, you know, influence your autoimmune or atomic nervous system, to be able to voluntarily influence the involuntary nervous system. You know, Yale University studied it, and they actually had to rewrite the medical journals when they injected him with E. coli and all those different things, you know. So anyway, so it's scientifically proven. I said, hey, let me try it. And so I started with cold showers, and then I started doing weekly cold plunges. And what I found was it just tremendously affected my clarity, my focus, my libido, my energy. It was just slowly bringing me more as a youthful, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my friends just are like, what's going on with you? You're like, you're, you know, in high school again. And that's truly how I feel, you know. I can I can sleep 4 or 5 hours and be fine. You know, I can go just hike mountains, whatever. And but more than anything, it's given me just tremendous energy and clarity. You know, so that's
Can you
been a
spell what
major.
that method is? I think some people who have how you spell it? Wim Hof? Wim Hof.
Yeah, WIMFOF method, the Wim Hof method.
Okay, so if anybody wants to check that out more and find out more about that, you can check it out, you know, Google it. But that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see if I want anything else I wanted to say more about the. No, I think I'm feeling like so where are you at now? Like so you were telling me that 2020 has been the best year yet.
Yeah, it has. It's been awesome. It's been a tremendous year, you know, and I've came to a place of forgiveness. I found forgiveness, you know, forgave my abuser that I've been trying to forgive my entire life. You know, that in and of itself, that one occurrence just would have made it the best year ever, just in and of itself. But loving myself, I, you know, came to the point where I've found love in myself. I have this amazing relationship. I found a woman that is in love with herself. I mean, whole as a person, just like I am now. So it's no longer two broken people trying to make a whole person. It's two healthy people that are going the same direction, that are vibrating at the same frequency of love, and look at life the same. That, you know, we found each other. We've actually magnetized. You know, it's an attraction. We've attracted each other to each other. And it's just changed my life, having someone there that doesn't want anything from me except for love. You know, I never had that before. I always had someone that wanted something from me or used me for some reason, you know, or that the cycle of anger and pain was still there, you know. So it's very refreshing to have a relationship that's not centered around any of that. And then also, I was able to spend some time with my kids. I haven't seen my children. They've been out for 4 to 6 years, both of them. And I was able to spend 6 months with my son, and he worked for me, lived with me. And then my daughter got married, and I was able to spend time with her. And it's just been an amazing, magical year. My whole perception in life has changed. I see everything differently. Like I've been out of the area. I've been out of Utah for about 10 years. When I got back here, I saw everything differently. I was like, I don't remember the mountains being pretty. You know, I don't remember, I've never taken pictures of flowers. I'm taking pictures of flowers and nature and beauty and seeing, like everything's different. I just keep saying, why didn't I see this before? Why didn't I do this before? You know, and it was just, I'd been lost off this path. You know, I'd polarized to selfishness. I'd chosen fear. You know, I hadn't chosen love or serving others yet. And anyway, it's
And
been
that's
just
getting
an
back to that
incredible year.
feeling like a kid
But
again, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
like
It
you're
is,
you're
you know.
because when you're a kid, everything feels so alive. You see the beauty. You are in that more unconditionally loving place because you know how kids just easily forgive you and let things go. And when they're not the wounded child, they just easily just love you, right?
Yeah,
Love other people, accept other people without judgment. And that's what it sounds like where you're at now because you've been able to release this heaviness of off your heart, really. Because that's really what it comes down to. It really comes back to the heart. I think people try to heal with their head, and it's really about the heart. Where it sounds like that's what the Course in Miracles. It sounds like how it helped you is it moved you into your heart space. Is that right?
yeah, it absolutely did. And the Course in Miracles, you know, just in short, is basically it just talks about there's only two paths in life. This temporal experience that we're experiencing here in this body, that there's only two paths we can choose. We can either choose service to others or service to self. So we can either choose fear or love. you know, and which direction you go is how you polarize and how you know, live your life and what is attracted back to you. And anyway, it was a means for me to be able to learn the psychological differences between whether it's my ego, my body wanting something versus it's my heart, my spirit, you know. And so when I was able to separate the two and learn that to follow my true nature and my true heart, it was just liberating and just powerful message. So yeah, that's been a life-changing, life-altering experience to understand that.
This is so great. This has been so great, Justin. I was just thinking about, because my sister just texted me this, that a thing from the cover of Time magazine says 2020 worst year ever. And you're telling me that it's been your best year ever. And so this shows that a lot of what's going on right now is psychological. And when you do this healing work, when you do this deep inner work, like this kind of stuff that's going on in 2020 doesn't phase you. Like it's just, you're not even a frequency match to what's happening, the fear that's happening in 2020 for some people. But not all of us are just, you know, just swimming in fear. When we've actually done the work, done the inner work, we actually release that fear, and then we're just in a state of love, and we can be at peace with the uncertainty of what's happening politically and everything else. So, and you're definitely a, you know, a testament to that is how it can be. So I hope that this inspires, you know, my soul tribe to want to do the deep inner child work, because then you can really get back to that feeling like a kid again. Because as you can see with Justin's life, like he definitely has been through a tremendous amount, and look at where he's at now. Like it's fabulous. It's a miracle. So is there anything else you wanted to say, Justin?
Yeah, I would like to say, yeah, it is a miracle, because a miracle is just a shift in perception from living in fear to living in love, you know, and with that shift, finding the gratitude and everything. And I'm truly grateful for my suffering and my challenges. And it goes back to everything happens for me, not to me, you know. And so if I know that everything is a lesson and everything is in my best interest that happens to me as a catalyst for change, for my evolution, my spiritual journey, then it's totally different. So I see love in you. I see love in every brother that I look at, and that has changed my life, seeing the love in every situation. So thank you, Solstice. Thank you to your tribe.
Yeah, thank
Much
you.
love to you. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Soul Tribes, if you liked this video and you found it valuable, please hit the like button and comment, you know, if you had any aha moments, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this on how to feel like a kid. Thanks for watching, Soul Tribes. Catch you later.